you know, there's a pronunciation, where you're born is your destiny. I think in this era of the time, it's changing because it doesn't matter where you're born. It becomes more important what you do and how you do. And why Combinator is one of the leading organization putting different angles of entrepreneurship together, and you are making this, let's say, the capital of the engineering technological area, Silicon Valley. How do you describe Y Combinator? What are you doing actually?
So Y Combinator is, we're an early stage fund, and so we're investors, and we're a little bit different from other early stage investors in the sense that we invest in companies 2 times a year, and what we call our summer and winter batches. And around now we invest about 100 companies each batch. And for each batch, it's a 3-month program. They come to Silicon Valley from all over the world. Last batch, we had 30% of our founders come from outside of the United States, and it's increasing over time. And during these 3 months, we provide mentorship with them. We have office hours, one-on-one office hours with all the partners. We have group office hours, which are mini board meetings in which they give updates. And we try to create a culture of transparency so that people are giving real updates, telling us real numbers, and so that other people can help them. And then it all culminates at the end of 3 months into what we call Demo Day, and that's when some of the top investors from Silicon Valley and elsewhere in the world come, and a lot of all companies give a pitch for about 2.5 minutes, and almost all of them usually raise the round that they would like to raise. And then afterwards, the most important part about YC is our alumni network, meaning we have now thousands of great entrepreneurs who we've just developed this culture of pay it forward, and people just help each other, whether it's a business contact that they need within a big organization, or it's their servers are burning down and they need help for the next 24 hours in fixing that issue. So we've been very fortunate to create that community.
I'm sure that lots of different countries and hundreds of entrepreneurs in this salon are very curious about in which stage you are interested in the applications. Is it the idea will be enough, or do you need a business plan, or?
So we fund anything from you just have an idea to we funded companies with $40 million in annual revenues already. So typically we like to do it somewhere where you are around your seed stage, have an idea and you've got a little bit of traction, or you're growing. But we very much focus on team, and because the team, the founders, is what makes the alumni network work. And so if you're a really good team with just an idea, we've taken many of those kind of companies.
Who is finding who? Are you?
Well, we've been very fortunate over the past decade where entrepreneurs know about us, know about Y Combinator, and so there's an application process online. But we do travel around the world to, just like I'm here and I'm meeting lots of startups here, to encourage them to apply to Y Combinator.
Are you going to meet some of them today?
I have. I met a lot yesterday doing office hours, and I'm meeting a few today. And then I'll be hanging around, so come find me.
Okay, so let's talk about the other stage. You find each other,
yep,
and you start to work together.
Yep.
So what's the process after that?
So after the 3-month program, we help you fundraise, and you can continue to set up office hours with all the partners. And typically, when you're at an inflection point in your business, we can help a lot with that, meaning you're about to get acquired, or you're trying to sell, or you're trying to expand into another market. The partners have a variety of different skills and expertise, and so you can just find the partner that is best suited to help you. And then, like I said, YC, it doesn't end after the 3 months. There's an alumni network, and you can plug into that, of course, and get help that way.
Why do we invite these entrepreneurs to Silicon Valley? What's there? What's different than here or the other countries?
It's really hard to describe, and I think there are pockets of the feeling that you get from Silicon Valley popping up elsewhere outside of California. But the basic premise is Silicon Valley has been able to attract a lot of great engineering talent and has a very high density of entrepreneurs, great entrepreneurs. And there's something about just being in a place in which, you know, like-minded people are able to just discuss things at any point in the day. And there's a lot of serendipity things that happens. So you go to a coffee shop and you see someone else that you know, another founder, and you kind of talk about the problems you're having and you're able to work it out that day. And that's something you can't get if you're by yourself in the corner in an island somewhere.
What is the motivation of all this process? Is it only do you only concentrate on the exit plan, or is this the only motivation? Money, earning money and more money, and
well, money certainly is a nice part of it, but the main thing, the reason why YC was started was because our founders wanted a better way, an easier way for founders to start a company. It was just too hard. And so even in California, where now it's pretty easy, but the barriers to entry were very high. And so that's why they started Y Combinator. Because we believe that the world is only going to change if there are more entrepreneurs who are going to do game-changing, world-changing things. And we believe that there are thousands and thousands of startups to fund. And so that's kind of the mission of YC, is to make sure we're funding the startups that are going to change the world. And then, of course, as a proxy, the value of these startups is another good thing about it. We make money as well.
Like, are you welcoming some NGO projects? Even you don't know, you know that it's not going to earn lots of money, but it will be useful for humanity and.
So we do actually fund nonprofits, and we basically give a $120,000 grant to people who are doing great things. And these nonprofits, what we like to see in nonprofits is that they have some unique insight, and they're doing things different from the current way that nonprofits work, or NGOs, which is usually very inefficient and cost heavy. And so they figured out a way to use technology or software in particular to scale up their business and make operations very efficient. And so we definitely look for those projects as well.
What is the percentage of fail and success, all these projects?
That's a good question. So I think failure or success, there are many definitions for that. So, you know, of course, every entrepreneur that joins YC wants to have a $1 billion, $10 billion company, but not all of us get there. So in that extent, I'm actually not sure what the failure rate is, but certainly not all startups that go through YC make it. A lot of them sell, or a lot of them just die, for lack of better words.
Do you give up some projects? Or when do you decide to give up some projects? You said that, okay, it's not, there will not be any success. We are not going to support this project anymore. Which point is
we always, until the very end and beyond actually, if they sell the company or it doesn't make it, and they have to close it down, we support the founder all the way through. Because what we believe, because as I said before, we invest in the people, and yeah, maybe the first one doesn't work out. That's totally fine. Almost nobody actually starts as the very first startup that actually is the big startup that actually makes it. And so we make sure to continue contact with them so that they come through YC again, or you know, they have our support when they do their next startup.
When I'm in Silicon Valley, I see lots of people get some projects and they failed before.
Sure.
But they didn't give up, and they, for example, some of the entrepreneurs are successful in their third projects, fourth projects.
Yep.
What's the meaning of failing? Because we only talk about the success stories, but there's another side in Silicon Valley, the other side of the medallion.
Yeah, you know, there are many reasons for something to fail. Sometimes you're too early, or sometimes timing doesn't work out, or just something unlucky happens to you. In fact, a lot of successful entrepreneurs say that, there's something just lucky, 2 or 3 moments in the life cycle of their company, something just lucky happened to them. They were just somewhere at the right time. And so in that sense, even if you're a great founder, you don't, you have to, some of the startups do fail over time, but but this is what I believe, everyone uses the analogy if it's a marathon, which is so true, but if you keep at it, the people that work the hardest and keep at it and just persevere throughout all the pains will have success at some point. And so it's just about keep on going and going and going.
Do all the startups do they have to based in Silicon Valley or United States to be successful, for your opinion?
We definitely think, all things equal, being in Silicon Valley is a huge advantage. You just are around a lot more people that are more helpful and are going at the same pace as you, and it kind of gives you a yardstick. Being in Silicon Valley for 3 months actually is a good thing for everyone, because at 3 months you know that you should be hitting certain goals, and so it makes you really run very fast towards it. That being said, if you're working on a startup that where the talent pool, for example, biotech or something else, where the talent pool is not in Silicon Valley, or you're working in a market, for example, in India, China, or even Turkey, where it's more, for Turkish people or for Indians or Chinese people, then you should be in the market in which you're focusing on and not in California.
Are the trends important for the new startups? For example, in these days, I'm living in New York, and I see lots of people are talking about virtual reality.
Oh, yes.
Whoever you met, they have a new startup about virtual reality. Do you think that these kind of trends are important?
The trends are important in the sense that it inspires entrepreneurs to think about that particular subject. But by the time we recognize the trends, it's almost a little bit too late to kind of jump on top of it, because people have clearly, there's a reason why it's a trend. So we don't look at trends. We see the trends ourselves. A year and a half ago, it was all about chatbots. Now it's all about robotics, AI, and deep learning, and self-driving cars. So, by function of that, we are investing in those kind of startups, but we let it just play out in with the applications that come to us.
What are your advice to students here in our meeting who are thinking to be entrepreneurs? What do you advise them?
2 things. One is, if you have an idea in which the idea is a problem you have and you're really passionate about it, I would just start right away. Even, I'm not saying quit school, but open up that terminal, start coding, start finding customers and talking to people and get the ball rolling. If you don't have an idea, what I really encourage people to do during the summer, you can intern, or if you're about to graduate, is to work at a fast-growing startup. Because by working at a fast-growing startup, you learn a lot of lessons on, frankly, what not to do, and also what to do. And you also meet people, entrepreneurial people, in those startups who will eventually become your co-founders. So I think if you're still in school, go work on a project with somebody else who could be a potential co-founder. Having a co-founder, I think, is very important. Or if not, then go intern or work at a startup.
What do you advise for the entrepreneurs? Because most of the entrepreneurs, when I met them, they are looking for money.
Yeah.
Is money the all solutions to the way to success for a startup, to finding money?
As someone who's raised a lot of money, no. Money basically makes you beholden to certain people and to certain goals, and you kind of lose control of your destiny over the course of time of raising a lot of money. So what I'd say is, if you can build a business without money, do it. But money does help you scale. It helps you, buy ads and things like that. And so if you have a really sustainable business model in which you can put money in and a lot more money comes out, then that's a good time to raise money. Or you have a lot of fixed costs in which you need to raise money for. That being said, I think the number one advice I always give to people is really focus on creating real value and not fake value. And by fake value, I mean focusing on things like press mentions, number of times you get on these these lists. What are those lists, like top or 30 under 30 or 40 under 40? All these lists, like that's all fake value, and it's not really a proxy for anything. Focus on real value, which is number of active users, actual revenue, stuff like that. That is a more assured way to. That's a better use of your brain and a more assured way to build something successful.
Also, when I'm in Silicon Valley, I have some interviews. There are some on-the-record stories and there are some off-the-record stories. And at those off-the-record stories, I heard some stories like Steve Jobs. You know, not like the success time of Steve Jobs, but they, for example, create a company. They try to raise money and they lose control in the company and they find themselves kick out of the company. What do you advise for the entrepreneurs to not to lose control in their own companies?
I mean, the best way to not lose control is to build a company with real value in which you have leverage when you go raise money. There are certain points in which, you know, when you're building a company, you don't have that leverage and you do need to take that capital to keep going. And so in that sense, just take on investors who you know well, do your diligence, find founders who have taken money from that investor. In particular, find founders who have failed and taken money from the investor because their reaction in the really shitty times is telling of what kind of investor they are and whether they're going to mess with you later or actually be good for you down the road and really help you get out of the gutter when you do get in the gutter. And so I think when you take money, it's just be very mindful of who you take it from.
Let's talk the third side of this all this ecosystem. What do you advise for the angel investors, businessmen, VC members? How do they going to choose the right entrepreneur or right startup project to put on money, to raise money on it?
Well, I think one, just being helpful and actually knowing what you can help with. So I do find some investors, they try to bite on too much and try to help with everything, but just know what your expertise is, and that should be the selling point to the entrepreneur. In terms of meeting other great founders, it's about building your network. So YC is very fortunate because we've built that brand over the course of the decade, and we are able to cast a wide net, and we have an application process in which everybody comes to us. But if you're working by yourself, I think the gaps in most of the ecosystem is in the mentorship. And so what I would like to see in Turkey and India and China, where it's kind of emerging markets and the ecosystems are starting to build, is founders who've been successful put money back into the system and mentor them, because founders are the best kind of mentors, more so than someone who has ran a big company or has been an investor for their entire lives, because they really know the psychology of building a business.
And let's talk a little bit about the fourth part, the governments.
Yeah.
For example, in Silicon Valley, I asked some entrepreneurs, what are you expecting from the government? And they told me that we don't want their shadow, and it will be enough for us. We don't want anything from the governments. What is the role of the governments to organize this kind of ecosystem in different countries? What is the key roles for the governments?
I think, some governments are actually investing in startups, and I'm not quite sure how they're picking the founders, and I just don't think they have maybe the experience to do so. And so I think the best thing for governments to do is, one, encourage businesses to be more open and to provide platforms. We were just sitting with someone from a bank who's now building APIs for entrepreneurs to build fintech stuff on top of it, and that's great. And I think this is something maybe the government can help convince other companies to do. And the other thing is, if they can help incentivize founders or angel investors to put more money into the system. And I know they're doing that in Turkey, and they're doing that in India and some other places. If they can do more of that, that's good. Instead of them investing in startups, I believe that they should encourage the people that are good with helping startups do that instead.
Let's turn to Y Combinator. Which subjects do you choose in these days? Do you have your own trends, or you are open like 360% to all kind of startups?
We take all kinds of startups because our goal is, one, to fund great founders, but two is we want to make sure we're funding the next $10 billion, all the $10 billion companies. And by that measure, by that criteria, I don't think there's only going to be so many of those, and so we can't have further restrictions beyond that. And so we look at all categories. I think every partner has their own interests, so I'm very much interested in consumer and marketplaces and software for cities and governments. And then we have another partner who's interested in fintech and so on and so forth.
Okay, my last question is, what will be your last advice to investors, entrepreneurs who are living a distance away from the Silicon Valley era, the area?
I think for entrepreneurs, it's focus. It's about focus. If you have an idea, just start on it and work on it, and then really focus on one or two things in growing that business. One of the things that I see a lot is trying to do too many things at once, and then kind of at the end of the day, you don't know what went wrong. So really just focus on one or two things. And there's a lot of material online, and YC itself we have online content. We're going to be starting a MOOC, an online course, next spring. Sam Altman, one of the partners, will be leading that effort. So we're trying to do more outreach. But the biggest thing you can do for yourself is find other entrepreneurs to hang out with, to get feedback from, and build a community around that. Because there's so many ups and downs, and you don't want to be there by yourself. And believe me, every startup goes through a lot of crap every single day. There's always problems that happen every single day. And so it's always good to know that the other people are also experiencing that, and you can't get that unless you hang out with them. And this is a great place to find those people, right?
Adora, thank you very much for joining us today.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.